What's going on, guys? It's your boy Anthony alongside the best Big 3 account in the universe, Big 3 News, aka Will, back with another edition of the Fourth Man. And wow, what a week, what a couple of days, Will. The additions that we were discussing, speculating on, some would say complaining about, we've seen them happen. We've seen them happen. We're going to get into all of that. A lot of the Big 3 news that's going on. Got another update on captains. Awesome interview on the back end of this with one of the Big 3 tryout / prospect guys. So really good episode in store for you guys. But first and foremost, my guy, rocking the Miami Marlins hat. What's good?
Yes, sir. I got to support my guy Jeter wherever he goes.
I feel that. Big Jeter guy.
It's like, you know how like when you have a friend that opens up like a cupcake business, so you order some of their cupcakes? That's like me.
So when a guy decides he's going to invest in a team, professional team that's worth billions of dollars, you're like, yeah, I got to support that.
It's his business. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'll buy some merch.
Okay.
It's kind of, to be honest with you, it's not that different from what we do.
No, it's really not that. It's not that different at all.
We start a thing and then we send it to our friends. Like, yeah, buy a T-shirt with our logo on it.
Oh, buy a hat too. A sweatshirt.
Buy a hat too. Sweatshirt, hoodie.
A subscription to our Patreon.
We have a Patreon?
Well, not yet, but in the future, just something for you to keep in mind. I'm just throwing things out there that people have as a podcast. Before we get too off topic here, because we know that our listeners know that we're prone to doing that, want to get into the show. Before we do that, if you guys want to follow our social media handles, it's at Fourth Man Pod, at Big3 News, obviously, and at _Siggy. If you want to watch the show, you can find us on youtube.com/fourthmanpod. Please like and subscribe. Some good content over there coming. A little bit of surprise for the draft. We got a mock draft coming up here soon. So some pretty good stuff in store. We'll work a little bit of the editing behind it. We'll see what I can string together here. But we got some good stuff coming on there. So youtube.com/fourthmanpod. And for those of you listening on Dash Radio on the Nothing But Net channel, appreciate you guys as always every Saturday, whether you're a first-time listener or you tune in every weekend. It's greatly appreciated. Let's get into it. All right, where do we start? Because there's just so much going on.
I'll say this. You talk about that mock draft, and really we talk about doing like a pre-draft power rankings. That would really have to be next episode, wouldn't it?
Well, that's what I'm telling the people here. Just saying.
I'll start thinking.
Just saying here. Let's just start here with a little captains update, because there wasn't a lot of new captains or captain trios that came around this week. Did find out that Three-Headed Monsters is returning their trio of captains from 2019. Rashard Lewis, who's been in the league since year one, Reggie Evans, and Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf. Really, all those guys have been there since year one. Yeah. Reggie Evans just was a part of Killer Threes the first year, and then Three-Headed Monsters guy ever since.
They're a legacy team at this point.
Finally, some normalcy, though. I mean,
oh, yeah.
It's been like what I don't know what to expect when I open this post here, or when I open up my Instagram account. What am I going to get? Like who's changing teams? Who got screwed over? The storm was calm this time around, and we got our three guys back. And that's the one team I'm really excited about, because they've been in the playoffs every year, and they're running it back with the same guys.
Yeah, no, it is really fun, and it's funny to see how many guys on those teams have become co-captains. So they must have had a pretty good draft last year. But they really kind of snuck into the playoffs on like a technicality. If Bivouac can just beat the winless Ball Hogs, then we're talking about a Three-Headed Monsters team that misses the playoffs for the first time in their brief history.
Ooh,
so, yeah. Are those three captains enough to get them in, even after the great draft that they had? That's a fantastic question. I think Rashard Lewis, one-time MVP winner, he's solid. Reggie Evans is by far and away the best big man in this league. And Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf is a living legend.
Ageless wonder.
The only man to give Father Time an L. So that to me, though.
The only guy in the league that's older than their coach.
Right. So that to me means, listen, I don't know what Three-Headed Monsters does. I think, they look like a team that you hope hasn't hit their ceiling. But they also kind of remind me a little bit of like the Toronto Raptors. That all those years that they kept on losing to LeBron, and you're like, this team isn't going anywhere. And then they make a big splash and they get Kawhi, and then they ended up winning it all. And you say, well, they built a championship team and they just kept on knocking on the door, and finally it was their turn. So I think three-headed monsters are one big splash away, whether that comes in the form of picking up a free agent or a captain, a draft pick. I know the captains are set, but if they could really get someone like we've seen these big names that are in the draft pool, if they can get somebody that can turn into a top 10 player, that's huge. And I think the talent is available in this draft for that to happen.
Oh, definitely. I agree. I mean, they got Larry Sanders, now a co-captain. I don't know if you're going to get a guy like Mario Chalmers again in the third round. I was pretty lucky
That was
the last time around. And, the question may come up as, is this Mahmoud's last year playing? I mean, he's 52 years old. I would not take the, I would not say yes, because he's continuously proved people wrong. Like you said, Father Time, the only L that he's ever gotten. But I am intrigued, do they try to run it back with this trio? Hopefully they hit gold again this time around and make it all the way through. But if they don't, you got to wonder, did they kind of blow it up like the Raptors you were talking about, make that big splash, whether it's a co-captain spot or a draft? I don't know. I think they can do well. It's just a matter of who they draft. I'm just worried that it's going to be hard to strike gold in this draft, or in any draft, 2 out of 3 times. I mean, think about it. They got Larry Sanders in the first round, who showed up to the combine last second. They got Mario Chalmers, who was just off the radar for everybody. I don't even know if everyone knew he was available, because he went third round.
No, I know.
Playing overseas. He wasn't even at the draft. And all of a sudden, he's just a co-captain, one of the better point guards in the league. So, I mean, I guess if anything could do it, it could be them, because they continuously seem to add good players. But, man, it's going to be tough. That's all I'm going to say. But nonetheless, a little bit of normalcy. We got the three-headed monsters back. We'll see what they do. See if they get lucky again. Speaking of big draft pools, wow, the additions over the past couple of days that came at us quick.
Very quick.
We thought it was going to be kind of sprinkled in like prior years, and they were like, nope, just all at once. It's just like,
dump it.
It's like the people that are like, can you help me move? And they give you one box, and maybe you have a little line going down, or you take one box at a time. The big three's kind of like, can you help me move? And they're like, hold on, stay. I'm going to stack another box and another box and some more. And then you're like, oh, my back's giving out. Herniated.
It's like bringing in the groceries.
Exactly.
You don't want to go back and forth in the car. You're bringing the whole thing. You're bringing as many bags as you can get.
Exactly. And the big three did exactly that. They just announced 10 guys that are going to be a part of the invite-only combine. Some names that we're pretty excited about. Will, I know that was something that you were harping on, if not last episode, the episode prior, where are the names at? Who were they getting? I was like, no, just wait. They're establishing themselves. I don't know if you were right or I was right, but they decided, here, let's go ahead and add some names. And pretty interesting on some of the names they added, but let me just list them real quick. Isaiah Austin, Isaiah Briscoe, Tony Roten, Earl Clark, Jody Meeks, Jordan Hill, our guy Von Wafer, that's super sick, Larry Williams, a.k.a. the Bone Collector, Bobby Brown, and Ronaldo Balkman, who I think Ronaldo Balkman said he's playing in 2020, but I'm not sure. I guess with the whole COVID thing about that, they just wanted to re-announce, hey, he's still going to be playing. Out of the 10 guys, give me 2 that stick out.
Well, I would say one for me has got to be that I find intriguing. I mean, I got to give the one to my guy Vaughn. Vaughn was the first guy to tell me in 2021 that he's joining the league, and we spoke to him on this very podcast. We know how dedicated he is, how excited he is. So I would be doing him a disservice if I didn't put him as one of the guys I was most excited to see.
Fair enough.
For 2 for me has got to be probably Tony Roten. We talked about it, and I think there's probably a 2A, 2B, but let me say my Tony Roten piece. Tony Roten reached out to us, and how he said he was actually a big fan of the podcast. So that to me is crazy.
Well, if you're listening, Tony, we appreciate it once again.
Yeah, we appreciate it, Tony. And I just know he's going to absolutely kill it this season. I mean, I was just going back looking at his highlights for the post I did, and those Sixers teams some of them were dreadful, but Tony Roten was such a bright spot. And you see some of the guys he was going up against. I mean, he was on teams where offensively you only had to worry about Tony Roten, and he was still getting buckets.
I mean,
so
just
I'm super
the way
excited
he
for him.
drive to the basket, whether like the Euro steps and the hop steps that he can pull out of his bag are ridiculous. The speed he has. What I was really impressed with about Tony Roden, that I think, I mean, for me personally, I forgot about is like defensively, he's just so long and lanky, and instinctively, he's just so good. Like he was just picking off passes like it's a football game, and he's intercepting them. Like,
yeah, and he's only 28, bro.
Only 28. That's what I really like about all these names is like, I don't think any guy outside of maybe Bobby Brown, Ronaldo Bachman, and the Bone Collector are really like pushing 40. Like I think most of the guys are 33 and under, to be honest. I think that would have qualified for the last draft. So it's pretty wild. I think for me, a couple names that stick out. I'm gonna say, and let me say this as they stick out. They're not my like most excited because, like you said, I'm really excited for Bond. I got to be really excited for Tony Roden because he said he's a fan of the podcast. But as far as intriguing that stick out, the first one's got to be Jordan Hill, because we heard Swaggy P on the No Chill podcast say that was the first name that came in his mouth, that he was going to try to recruit as a co-captain. Now we know he's not the guy that Frank Nitti was talking about. We know that Swaggy P didn't go in that direction. He's going to be in the draft fold. Now, will enemies probably take him the first chance they get? I could see it. But I could see other teams trying to go after him as well, being a coveted big man. I'll say the second name that really sticks out to me, and this one's pretty tough because they all kind of like intrigue me. Like you got Bobby Brown, one of the Ignite guys. You know, you got Isaiah Austin.
Yeah. Larry Williams is sick. Bone Collector is sick to have him.
That's the name I'm going with. The Bone Collector is going to be playing in the Big Three.
That's going to be sick. We wanted the Professor. We wanted guys like this forever.
Why have we not done a plea on the Bone Collector?
I don't know. Yo, Shaney, like, what are you doing, man?
I'm just like, I was like, who's Larry Williams? I was like, that looks like the Bone Collector. I was like, oh, he's got a real name. Gotcha. Okay, so that's not his first and last name. Gotcha. But wow, I mean, I'm super intrigued about like how he does at the combine and if a team drafts him. But like realistically, that has to be the one that sticks out to me the most, because it's like, okay, we had Frank Nitti last year, a guy that played in the Drew. We know he plays overseas. And now we're getting a guy from like the N1 mixtape tour, you know, street ball legend, Rucker Park legend. And I just want to see what kind of impact he makes. I could really see him making a team. And I'm looking at the 10 guys here. Like realistically, I think they could all be drafted. And
without a doubt.
We think about it.
Especially if there's 3 rounds, you'd say 36 picks.
Well, I think there's only going to be 2, right?
Right. Frank did say that.
Because Frank said there's 5 guys and the Big 3, you know, confirmed that. But then you also have to think about now that Killer 3s doesn't have any picks. Triplets might not have any picks. I don't even know how that team's going to work because they have 6 guys and they're going to be like, hey, we only have 5 guys this year. So,
well, I find it really suspicious that we haven't heard anything from triplets. You know, everyone's confirming captains, and you could say, well, nothing's changed, but nothing changed with 3-headed monsters, and they still confirmed. Nothing changed with Killer 3s, and they still confirmed.
Well, that's what I was thinking too.
I wonder, I have a sick feeling that the one guy that we're missing out on all of this is Al Jefferson.
Well, he's not a social media guy, but he has been very quiet. We haven't heard his name too much. I mean, we really didn't hear much throughout the Big 3 season outside of when it was game day, but I'm intrigued by that too. And I wonder if Pargo's playing, you know, obviously he's got the playoffs going on right now. Like what happens if they make it to the second round?
I mean,
you know,
I believe Pargo is playing from like the interactions I've had with him. And I definitely know Jamario Moon's back. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't be surprised if one of those guys, Alan Anderson, got a promotion and Al Jefferson wasn't back. I don't know. That's not me like wishing that he wasn't back. I just find it weird that you would think if it was a cut and dry case, triplets would have been one of the first teams that we heard about.
So now
they're ending up being one of the last.
Well, that's true. So we got triplets, enemies, and aliens did announce. So triplets and enemies are the last 2 to name their captains, to confirm their captains. So let's say triplets doesn't have, like, they do have 2 draft picks and they're going to draft again or whatever the case may be. That might only be like 22, 23 spots in the draft. And you think like these 10 guys, if they all go, like, and then you got Hawk. We don't know Andre Owen's situation right now. I mean, like, there's not going to be a lot of spots. Like,
well, I hate to say it, but like, even if there's 5 guys, like those teams, those teams needed that sixth spot.
I agree.
Mainly because after week 2, everybody had an injury.
Yeah.
So I feel like even if you're not drafted, like we're going to see almost like season 1, a lot of guys are going to get called.
Yeah, stay tight for sure. It's going to be interesting, but the 10 guys they announced, like, really like the names. Really excited to see what they bring to the table and do at the combine. It's going to be tough to choose between all of them. Like, I would hate to be like a captain or a GM right now because I'm like, man, who do I go with? I mean, I'm looking at some of these guys like Briscoe and Jody Meeks. They recently were in the NBA. Jody Meeks just won a championship with the Raptors in 2019.
Yeah.
Isaiah Briscoe's 25 years old. He might be the youngest dude in the combine as of now.
He was in the G League. He was putting up like pretty impressive numbers in the G League bubble last season. Going up against guys like Bobby Brown, Jarrett Jack, Amir Johnson.
I mean, yeah, Bobby Brown. I mean, like, do Trilogy just say, hey, we want to bring you from Ignite to Trilogy? Like, let's just run it back.
Does Trilogy become the Ignite team?
They very well could be.
Think about that. Does Ignite become this thing where these veterans, they play? They're like, all right, hey, listen, like, we're gonna, sacrifice our minutes and our roles for these young kids because that's what they signed up to do, right? Which I'm sure for them is a pretty fulfilling experience. And then we're like, all right, but like we still want to play. So once the season's over in the summer, we're all gonna play in the Big 3.
Hey, maybe so. And then like Roten, I mean, we talked about him already, what he can do on the court, but just for a little insurance, he's also the cousin of Tri-State captain Nate Robinson. So
That's
hey,
true.
that doesn't hurt. Familia.
That's a pretty big safety net.
Yeah, definitely. So it's gonna be interesting. Gonna be tough to pick, but I'm very happy with the additions that they've made. And we talked about it a little bit off the podcast before. We've talked about it on air too. But the TBT and the Big 3 have a little bit of like this summer rivalry. Like I've always like kind of worded it as, if you're a college basketball guy, you like the TBT. If you're an NBA guy, you like the Big 3. And a couple of guys that we've seen play in the TBT last year have shifted over to the Big 3. I don't know if they're like kind of testing the waters or the avenues didn't open up through their TBT experience. Now they're trying over here. Maybe they're just venturing out and just like, screw it. Let's just play some summer ball and we'll just try every league and just see what happens. But it's a good feeling as a Big 3 fans to be like, oh wow, like, hey, some of these guys, not everyone's choosing the TBT over the Big 3, how it initially was made out to be, just because the TBT was posting a little bit more on their socials. So
yeah, no, for sure, absolutely, it is fun to see that, and I think a lot of guys too are keeping both options open.
I think so too. Yeah, you're right.
But the TBT is a ton of teams that are applying, and a lot of teams like Sideline Cancer and what's the other one? There's like a couple that like I follow and that were mutuals on social media. I don't know. I look at all these teams and I look at all the teams that they retweet, and I feel like I'm seeing a player announcement from like an alumni team every like 15 minutes. And I'm like, this is going to be like a huge effing tournament. So I don't know if all these, but I feel like I see more than 64 teams.
Well, I mean, they all have to apply, I think.
Right. That's what I mean. So I feel like maybe some guys like are getting wind that their team isn't going to make it.
Hey, maybe so. I think, and we're talking about these 10 guys and like the amount of spots that are going to be open. I mean, we're not even talking about the tryout guys. Like Cory Jefferson's a guy that I could see be drafted.
Yeah.
I don't know everybody's game through the tryouts necessarily, but there is a lot of potential that I feel like was at the tryouts. So, we'll see. It's going to be an interesting draft. I can't wait for it. Like I said at the beginning of the show, that we're going to do a little something for the draft. So just stay tuned for that, guys. If you're listening, that's why I said you got to subscribe to YouTube now. It's not something that like has necessarily been popping for us. It's not been the focus, but draft night, it's gonna be fun.
You're gonna want to be on our YouTube on draft night.
No doubt. Let's talk about the tryouts a little bit that just happened in Dallas. The tryouts are done. They did have 2 successful turnouts. It sounds like some people made it, some people didn't. Some people were happy, some people not so happy.
Very happy, yeah.
But the 5 guys who did make it were Cory Jefferson was one of the guys I just named, Anthony Criswell, Kendrick Cornelius, Terrence Thomas, and Maximus Kirk. Very interesting, some of the guys that are coming on. Kendrick Cornelius is supposed to be like a really good shooter, apparently, just based off the tryout tape. Maximus Kirk, smaller but faster agility speedier guy, friends with Andre Emmett, and that's what he's.
All these guys sound like Spartans. Sound like Spartan.
More than basketball players.
Cornelius, Maximus.
Maximus. That's a good point. I mean, our guy Cory Jefferson,
That's a more American.
That's a more American name, but nonetheless was super impressive at the tryout. Apparently, former net, someone that we're keeping an eye on because he was a Brooklyn guy. So I think the tryouts went smoothly. Anybody from the tryouts that like you saw or maybe did a little bit more digging on and you're kind of rooting for?
No, if I'm being 100% honest, I really haven't had. I mean, I knew Cory Jefferson, and I knew like a lot of the guys from DC. Mm-hmm. But to be honest with you, I'm not really familiar with a lot of these guys from Dallas. If I'm keeping it 100.
Well, that's the only way I want you to keep it. But I agree. I wasn't too familiar with everybody outside of Cory Jefferson, which it was kind of funny. I was like, I think everyone had the same thought process. Like, you're looking at the picture of the 5 guys and they're holding up their Admit 1 tickets to Vegas. And I think everyone's first thought was not of the 5 guys who made it and who they might be. It was like, is that Cory Jefferson?
Is that Cory? Exactly. And all the comments are like, is that dude on the right? Is that Cory Jefferson?
Hey, we've seen that guy before. That's Cory Jefferson.
And we asked him about that later in this episode.
Oh, hey, spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. I mean, you'll have to wait around and see what he says, but we asked him about being an NBA guy at a public tryout, and he sort of gives you a little bit of a background to what happened. But yeah, no, honestly, it was, I'm being honest with you. I really haven't had the opportunity to look into these guys. Can I be 100% honest with you, Anthony?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize that the list of the names was published until you just said that.
Oh,
I don't know if that's a reflection on me, but I had no idea what I knew. Cornelius, I knew Maximus, because I was like, oh, there's like Spartan names, but
you were watching 300 before.
Yes.
Those names stuck out. No, I actually found out, which I know you've been working a lot, but working from home, I have the luxury of checking my Instagram more times throughout the day than you do probably. So I just find out through the videos, and that's how I kind of learn their names, just keep up with it a little bit. And then also too, I'm sitting in front of a computer all day, so checking big3.com doesn't hurt either. And trying to figure out the names. They didn't announce it on there, but they don't announce it on their post for some reason. I never understood that. But
yeah, I thought they were gonna like tag everybody. I don't know.
Guess not.
Guess not.
Nonetheless, congrats to those guys. Hey, 5 of the first 10 guys to ever go from tryout to combine. It's going to be tough. There's now, with the 10 additions that have been announced, and then the 10 additions, or the 10 guys who made it from the tryout to the combine. That's 20 guys. That could be 20 spots. Maybe they all get in. Maybe you got to think of Hawk too. So that's 21 maybe. I mean, maybe it's all those 21 guys. It's invite only, pretty exclusive, but it'll be interesting to see what the teams look like after June 14th. Before we get to our interview with the aforementioned Cory Jefferson that you hinted at a little bit, Will, got to give a shout out to our guy, DerMarr Johnson. It was announced today that he is going to be the University of Cincinnati's Director of Player Development. Now, if you follow DerMarr Johnson on any kind of social media, you know that he's a guy that wants to get into some kind of coaching. If you watch him in the Big 3, if you watch him in the Big 3, you know that he's a great GM. He's great at picking players that not a lot of guys have heard of. It's evidenced by the teams that he's built. So he's always done a really good job of knowing the talent and picking guys. And now he's getting that opportunity with Cincinnati having a new head coach, Wes Miller. Apparently, he promised DerMarr an interview. The interview must have gone really well because now he's got the job. I mean, just a big shout out to, Slim for getting the job and trying to ultimately make his alumni, try to get back to their ways when he was playing there with like Kenyon Martin and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, DerMarr Johnson, James White, we have a ton of Bearcat representation in the Big 3, which is, I don't want to say it's weird at all because they have a really good program, but like Cincinnati, I feel like it's just, I don't want to say like a random school, but it's like a very specific school to have so many guys from the Big 3 from. Yeah, so it was really cool to see DerMarr get this opportunity and everyone's so congratulative of him. So, it's really, I'm really excited for it. I'm really looking forward to see what he does with that program. I'm happy that Wes Miller backed up his word. Yeah. Because I know when he took the job, I know a lot of the players were like, listen, like we just wanted an opportunity to be a part of the program. And, who knows that program better than those guys who really were there for, the glory days of that program,
exactly.
And so I'm just happy that Wes Miller did that. And it looks like he's building a good staff there. And like you said, they didn't call us for a character, witness,
Evaluation.
but we could absolutely, stand by DerMarr Johnson as an excellent evaluator of talent. So I'm super happy for him. I'm super excited to see what he does.
Well, I thought Wes Miller was a good hire. I follow the SoCon kind of closely just because my college where I graduated from is in the SoCon.
Mm-hmm.
And so at Greensboro, it's a team that's always been pretty tough. So made a good hire there, and it looks like they're making some good strides to try to get back to those glory days by including, like you said, some of the guys who were a part of it and witnessed what it takes to win as a Bearcat. So congrats to him. Just wanted to give him the shout out, and that's kind of pretty much wrap up the show. A lot of good additions. Big Three's doing a lot of good things. We had a pretty dope interview that we've referenced once or twice with Cory Jefferson, former Baylor guy, former Brooklyn Net. Injuries kind of derailed some of his early success that he had, but nonetheless, he's been rehabilitating. Did really well at the BIG3 Tryouts, and now he's headed to the Combine. So we talked with him a little bit about the Big Three, why the Big Three, and what the tryout was like for the first ever one in Dallas. So appreciate everyone's time, and let's get to the interview with. All right, cool. Today we are welcoming on the final pick of the 2014 NBA Draft, former Nets forward, and one of the first players to be selected as a finalist from the Big 3 Tryouts and get an invite to the Big 3 Combine, Cory Jefferson. Appreciate your time, man, and thanks for coming on.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we're definitely going to talk some Big 3 stuff, obviously being a Big 3 podcast, but want to talk a little bit about your time during the NBA. I think obviously for everyone who's in basketball or is looking to play professionally, the goal is to get drafted.
Right.
You were that last pick in the 2014 draft. I'm sure it was a sigh of relief, once it comes down, and you're probably like, I don't really know what would be going through your head. Like, do I want to be undrafted and pick my team, or do I want to just be drafted, just to say I was drafted?
Yeah. It was actually an interesting story because I think around maybe might have been around like mid second round. Teams were calling me and trying to do like a drafting stash, and I was talking to my agents, and I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I know I can play in the NBA, so just tell everybody I don't want to get drafted then, and we'll just wait and get on a summer league team and go from there. And like shortly after that, my phone had died. So during my whole draft party, I was telling everybody they can go home. I won't be getting drafted tonight and everything. And then one of my friends that were there was actually saying, yo, you're about to get drafted it's to San Antonio. I ended up getting traded to Brooklyn. So you're about to get drafted to San Antonio. I was like, nah, man, I'm not getting drafted tonight. So then my agents came running through the door because they've been trying to text and call me, but my phone was dead. So they came running through the door saying, you're about to get picked up. You're about to get picked up. And Brooklyn was going to end up obviously keeping me and not doing the drafting stage.
Man, that's dope. So
really
maybe
cool.
Not the way you drew it up, but nonetheless, the dream happened. I mean, what were you telling the people that were like leaving the party where you're like, come on back in? Like, real quick,
I mean, everybody was pretty much already gone. There were some people that were still left, but a lot, like more than half the people that already left. So it was, I mean, about the time I figured out what was going on, they were already about to say my name.
Man, that's cool. But you got to see yourself to get drafted on TV and whatnot. Got to see your name pop up and everything.
Yeah.
Man, that's dope. That's cool. So you played in the NBA for a little bit, and I want to ask you a little bit about your NBA experience because, in your first start for Brooklyn, I looked this up on Basketball Reference. I think you had a really solid game. I think you were 100% from the floor, put up good minutes, and most importantly, your team got the win.
Right.
But I feel like what we've noticed, especially with guys in this year's draft pool for the Big Three, is that there's a lot of guys in here that are very talented. And most of it came down to early injuries in their career and then the lack of opportunities. Now, I understand that's the business side of things, and that's just how it goes. And I would think that it can be mentally draining as well, trying to get yourself, as you work yourself back into that spot where you're like, man, I worked so hard to get here, and now I'm having to prove myself, and I know I can do this already. And teams, I've seen that, but sometimes people can forget about you when something new and shiny is coming through the draft. But just like, how would you describe your NBA experience, especially early on when you were playing with Brooklyn?
It was a great experience, especially my rookie year. I was there with a lot of vets, KG, Joe Johnson, Allen Anderson, Brooke Lopez, Jared Jack. So I was there with a lot of vets. I got to learn a lot. Um, and then just on and off the court, they were able to teach me things. So you always want that from your vets, especially when you're a rookie trying to figure out everything that's really going on. So I had a good time there and learned a lot.
That's dope.
Was there anybody who stood out? Anyone in particular that really took you under their wing?
KG. KG was always one of my favorites growing up. So to actually be on the team with him and seeing him coming through the locker room the first time, I wasn't really starstruck, but I was like, man, that's KG right there. And then from day one, he just started just giving knowledge and wisdom. Like I said, for on and off the court, I always heard that he would buy his rookie suits, and he did. He got us some suits, me, Markel. He got us some suits and shirts and everything. So definitely appreciate it for that.
That's really cool. And before we leave off of Brooklyn, I'm a big Brooklyn guy, so I do have to ask. You were part of the franchise in I would say, a transitionary period, especially from where they were to where they are now. And the Nets really like to pound their chest about the culture that they've built and all really the off the court stuff. Did you see the foundation of that being laid at all, or did you ever get to experience that?
I could see the foundation being laid a little bit. Like I said, while I was there, I believe the year before they were in the playoffs, and then the year I was there, I went to the playoffs and lost to Atlanta the first round. But I believe just having that culture and everybody experiencing just being in the playoffs and with Brooklyn, well, that being a new team in Brooklyn, it was in Jersey before, like a couple years before, but new team in Brooklyn, the fans getting to experience that. I feel that it all played a part.
Let's talk about the big three a little bit. Obviously, congrats on the tryouts going well and being invited to the combine. It's dope that you got an all expense paid trip there. I would say that for me personally, I was a little surprised to see you there just because you have NBA experience. And from our knowledge, when you have NBA experience, you're automatically, in the combine. But I know the big three is doing it a little bit differently this year, kind of being a little bit more exclusive and invite only. But first and foremost, how did you kind of find out about the tryouts and why the big three?
I found out I know Nancy Lieberman and we work out at the same place. And she was telling me that they would be doing the tryout soon. And then I found out that it was in DC and in Dallas. And I was like, okay, that's perfect. Um, Another reason is because I've been sitting out a couple of years, pretty much rehabbing an injury. And so I've pretty much been off the radar for the last couple of years, just being out, not actually playing anywhere. So I felt that this was a perfect opportunity for me to get back. Big Three is always great competition. Everybody's going to be physical, talented group of people, and a lot of ex-NBA players. So I feel like that was a great place to start.
How do you feel like the experience was? Obviously, this is the Big Three's first time doing this, but how do you feel like the experience was and also the competition there in Dallas?
It was good. It was good. Definitely physical. I feel anything Big Three is going to be physical because whether it's actually in the games or whether it was at the tryouts or doing the combine or anything like that, everybody's still going to be proving themselves because it's a lot. Like I said, a lot of people are going to be from people that played in the league already. So everybody wants to show that they can still play, or even if it's people not playing and they've been just out like the old heads or something, and they've just been chilling. They want to prove they can still play. Like
Right.
although they've been out for a while, they can still play. So regardless of where it's at, if it has anything to do with the Big Three, it's going to be physical.
Well, now with the age restrictions being lowered a little bit too, I just feel like for yourself, you're still relatively young in your prime, and there's a lot of guys like that. And I think that now with Joe showing, hey, we can go from the big three to the NBA too. I feel like there's a lot of guys that are ultimately trying to take that same route in a sense. Is that ultimately the goal for you? Or is it more just like take 1 year at a time,
Right.
and then we'll just
Yeah.
see what
Yeah.
happens?
The dream's still there to play back in the league. So obviously want to start here, do well here with the Big Three, and then hopefully that opens up avenues for later.
Dope, super sick.
Besides Nancy Lieberman, is there anyone that you're looking at in terms of players as excited with the opportunity to either play with or play against?
Uh, there's a lot of players there, but if anybody, I say Isaiah Austin, just from you know we've been building a close bond just over the years, just from Baylor and from there on. So he told me that he would be there. So that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
How cool is it from you, from someone that knows Isaiah Austin personally, just to see the journey that he's been on from really, we never knew if he'd play basketball again after being such a talent at Baylor, to now he really has an opportunity to showcase his talents in the Big Three.
Right. It was really just crazy to see, and it just goes to show you that you really just can't give up. And if his story doesn't motivate anybody, then I don't know what will. But yeah, him going through everything that he's been going through, even before the whole thing with the draft, him playing basketball, period, saying that I want to play and not taking no for an answer, basically.
Talking about a few players, that you're excited to potentially play with or just, even see at the combine. But funny enough for you during your Brooklyn days played with a lot of guys or were on the same team with a lot of guys that are already associated or looking to, compete in the Big Three this year. Joe Johnson is one of the guys you named, along with Jared Jack, who's playing in his first year. Allen Anderson's been a staple in this league for a while. And we just saw that Earl Clark's going to be playing. Were you close with any of those guys, and do you feel like there's a little bit of advantage maybe to have some of those guys that as captain?
Right.
Just you obviously you're going to do well at the combine. That's the goal, but
Right.
maybe a little bit of advantage knowing some of those guys during your time at Brooklyn.
Exactly. I mean, that would be cool with me. Like I said, I know I'm going to prove that I can be there. So
sure.
Whatever happens after that is like, oh, he knew this guy, he knew that guy. It really don't matter to me, but I'm gonna prove that I belong. So at the end of the day, that's gonna be that. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of Brooklyn guys.
And you mentioned like right before we were talking about this that you were coming back from a couple injuries. I heard that also in the Big 3 video that you did. That you're kind of rehabbing back. Where do you feel like you're at, like mentally and physically? Just right now, getting back into the just playing professionally.
All right. Mentally, I'm fine. Probably even better than I was before my injury, because it's caused me to just reinvent my game and caused me to actually slow down. I know before I was trying to do a lot of things quick, especially my first couple of years playing. But now I've changed my game up a little. I can stretch the floor now. The teams that I was playing with before I did my surgery, I was always like one of the best shooters on the team, just expanding that game. So hopefully, of course, I obviously want to bring that to the team, but also still got athleticism, rebounding, blocking shots. So, and then talking, basically anything that can help. Been working on all that.
What do you think the biggest adjustment's going to be for you, half court 3v3? What do you think something that might be a little bit of a learning curve is going to be?
Not really sure. Like going through for the tryouts and everything, they really tried to get us prepped for actually playing in the Big 3 as far as the rules anyway. And pretty much everything else is gonna be easy to get used to. But I'll say the biggest thing would probably just to make sure you're cleared. Like if you're not even the guy that's taking the ball like outside of the 3-point line, get outside of the paint and everything. But I think that would probably be the biggest rule to adjust, because I know during tryouts there was a lot of turnovers just from that, people not clearing. So that's probably the biggest one.
That's kind of the basics of playing 3-on-3 when you're young. I guess everyone's not used to like playing like that again. I always thought it would be like the 14-second shot clock, but I guess with the game, like the way it is now, it's just a lot faster paced.
Right.
So people are taking quick shots anyways. For sure. Really, I guess, want to know, I mean, if we were like GMs in the Big 3, and you were kind of like doing like almost like an elevator pitch, I mean, what would you tell some of the captains, really, because they're not the players or I'm sorry, they're not the personnel or actual like GMs off to the sideline, but they're actually the captains that are playing in the games with you, your teammates.
Right.
What would you tell some of those guys if it came down to you and maybe somebody else that you could bring to the table?
Like I said, I could stretch the floor a lot better than it was when I was playing before. I'm going to be aggressive. I'm going to be physical. Going to go after the rebounds, go after the block shots, and just be an energy guy. I know they're going to be out there. The main guys, the captains, they're going to be the ones who's really like the buckets as we call them. But I can sit there and spot up, knock down a three, go out there, get the offensive rebound, put back, whatever they need. So that'll be my pitch for them.
That's nice. And I'm sure you've been following the Big3 account just a little bit more, knowing that you're going to be at the combine there. I'm sure you've seen some of the trio of captains that teams are lining up, whether they're returning guys or they're new faces to the league. I'm sure you'd be grateful for anybody you're drafted to. I'm sure whenever you're in a draft, you're just like, I don't care. Just as long as somebody picks me, I can play with anybody. But is there anybody, like any trio of captains that you look at and you're like, man, it would be kind of fun to play alongside those guys. Like those dudes are pretty nice, or like complement my game pretty well.
Right. Nobody specifically. Of course, like say my guys from Brooklyn, it'd be cool to be with them, but really pretty much anybody. I'm here to get on.
Nice.
That's fair.
Very fair. Very fair. All right. So, I mean, before we let you go, I got to ask this. It's not a Big3 question, but NBA playoffs, we're right in the middle of it. Who do you have coming out of the East? Who do you have coming out of the West? And who do you have winning it all?
Coming out of the East, ex-Brooklyn player, I get to go for Brooklyn for that. And then West, I got to go with my guys in Utah, just because I got most of my guys playing with them, and they're looking real nice right now.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see how the West goes though, because it's real competitive out there.
Oh yeah.
There's like so many games that are already like even at 2. If it is Brooklyn and Utah, who do you think wins in a best of 7? Obviously the Brooklyn has the Big3. Yeah, we know.
I'll say it goes to 7 games.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll just see what happens on game 7. All right. I'm going to ask you a non-basketball question real quick because I found this pretty interesting, doing my research. So I saw, I'm not sure what website I saw it on, but I saw somewhere a little bit about the background behind your proposal and then ultimately your wedding. I'm sure you've heard this a ton of times. Okay. But as a married man, I got the ring on, make sure I got the ring on. But as a married man, I understand the stress that comes with being married and the stress that it takes the stress going into a proposal. Yeah. I also know that from the women's side, it might be even a little bit more stressful because there's a lot of uncertainty. And then when you actually are proposed to, you got a lot of planning coming up. What I found super interesting about yours is that you proposed and you and your girl were like, all right, well, we know we want to get married pretty quickly. You got married 5 days later. You were hitched 5 days later. What was that experience like for both you and now your wife? I mean, that's got to be pretty. I don't know if that's like the most stressful wedding and proposal or the least stressful proposal and wedding.
A little bit of both, because I definitely wanted to make the proposal a good one. But we had always talked about not wanting to do too much for our wedding, like just putting the money somewhere else. Mm-hmm. So I knew that we're just going to do something quick as far as the wedding. So the proposal ended up being a lot better than I even imagined. Her mom helped me put it on since she was right out here in Dallas as well. So we put it on at her parents' place, and it was funny because I actually didn't get the ring. Well, I didn't physically have the ring in my possession until like an hour before we were supposed to do the proposal.
Oh my gosh.
Because I went and got it. I went and got the ring. I think I proposed to her. It was on a Thursday. And I went and did it. I went there and started the whole process like the Thursday or Friday before. So the guy that was doing the ring, he had told me that it would be ready the day before. And then it wasn't. So he was like, okay, I'll have it ready tomorrow during the afternoon. So the proposal was at, I think 4 or 5 o'clock. And then it was still end up being late. He was like, okay, I'll have it ready at 3. I'm like, wow. So now I have to think of an excuse to actually get out the house. Like I said, we were supposed to be meeting up. So my car was in the shop. So we were driving. I was using her car. We were all going the same place in her car. So I already had one excuse for her to come with me to go over there to her parents and everything. And like I said, her mom really, really helped that because she set everything up. She had the music playing. The right music was on, and I didn't even know how she was going to have the balloons and everything, but that ended up being perfect. So then after that, and we got engaged, and then we already said that we didn't want to have a big wedding, so we were really just going to go to a courthouse. And our friends were like, no, you can't do that. We got to do something at the house for you. So they ended up they ended up decorating the whole house for us to have our wedding, our ceremony, and everything. And then we ended up just getting married in the backyard. So it all worked out perfect.
Man, that's
Awesome.
awesome. That sounds stressful as hell. I was going to say that I
Really,
have a
the biggest thing was the proposal for me, but for the wedding, the friends handled all that.
Yeah, I can relate to the proposal part. So see, for me, I already had the ring, but I knew it was going to be later in the day, kind of like yours. And so we were walking around, but everywhere I'm walking, I have this big box in my pocket. So, I got my hand stuffed, and I got a couple looks from her, like, why is his like hand always in his pocket? I'm over here like switching pockets, make sure she didn't see anything. But I don't know. That one sounds a little bit more stressful, having the ring at the last second there.
Yeah, that was the most stressful part, because I was like, man, it was supposed to be ready already, and I have like an hour left. So I literally had to rush to get the ring and rush back, pick her up, and then we went to her parents' place.
Nice. Yeah, I think one thing you learned too is mother-in-laws come in clutch, like big time.
For sure.
I know mine did for sure too. All right, Cory. Well, best of luck at the combine. It looks like there's going to be a lot of competition there, but we have a lot of faith in you that you're going to do super well. Appreciate you taking the time, and we'll see where you end up. We'd hope to do this again when you're drafting. I mean, maybe we can hear a little bit about your experience in the Big 3 once you're in season.
Oh, for sure. Sounds like a plan to me. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Yes, thank you, Cory. All right, everybody. That was our interview with Cory Jefferson, one of the 10 people who won the all expenses paid trip to Vegas to compete in the Big 3 Combine later this week. I'm super excited to see what happens. And, Anthony, before we go, I just want to give you a little bit of insight that I didn't get the opportunity to give you before. You were really excited about the Bone Collector being in the Big 3
I still am.
Why wouldn't
after
you?
The show.
Another guy that you might want to keep your eyes and ears out for, that nothing official yet, but I'm just seeing things, is a gentleman by the name of B.A.
Ooh, okay. He's a basketball player, social media guy, a TV show star with Baron Davis. Okay, That's an interesting name. I'll keep that in mind.
I don't know if anything official has happened yet, but I just have been hearing some whispers. I've been seeing some things, a couple winks, which leads me to believe that something may be coming. So, they seem to be announcing 5 people a day every day. I'm assuming this will probably continue up to the draft. I mean, they do have they said they're expecting over 100 guys. So I don't know if we'll get everybody's names, but at least the notable ones. And I think that's a pretty notable name.
I like it. Hey, I think that the more the merrier. Next thing you know, you're going to tell me the professor's joining.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll see. I know he was close one year, but I don't know anymore. But that's all for this episode. We appreciate you guys for staying and listening. As always, this is the Fourth Man Podcast. You can find our socials on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at Fourth Man Pod, TikTok as well. You got to get on the TikTok, bro. I've been telling you about it. Anthony hates TikTok, but we appreciate you guys listening, whether on your preferred podcast platforms, on YouTube. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you next week.